Hey Sarah, I know Facebook just updated their processes here, so this looks so different than the last time I went live. Um, Sarah, hi, Naomi. Can you see me and hear me? Are we there? Give me a thumbs up if you can see me and hear me. All right, comment moderation. Hey Tanya, good to see you. I hope everyone's family is good. Sarah's good, yes. Okay. Just when you learn something, they change the rules and change the process. And so the screen's all different. So hopefully this will work out just fine. Let's see. All right. One, two. We're going to give it a few minutes. I know that there was a great crowd on the first one earlier today, about an hour ago. Pastor Kyle and Shanti did it together. So there were a lot of people on that chat. So I'm going to give it a few minutes to for people to sign in for year two, because usually we have a nice big crowd. So we will hang on for a little bit. So in the comment box, while we are waiting for people to log on, tell me what you've been doing. Those of you that had a little bit of extra time or working from home, how is the working from home thing going for you? I know that my husband is working from home downstairs. I'm working from home upstairs. My daughter is home from school, and she is doing some work and whatnot. And it is crazy. We probably have about 20 different pieces of equipment going at once. So, what is going on in your homes? Anybody working from home? Hey, Gila. All right, good, good. Hi, English. Good to see you. You were on my mind today. I'll be giving you a call either later tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. I just had English Bradley on my mind, so my mama said to give folks a call when they are when you're thinking of them. So I love you too. All right. I'm hoping these comments are in real time. Gila, doing your best, working from home. I hear ya. Please let me know how your husband is doing. I haven't followed up with that. I know that we had spoken about that before, so I just want to see how he's doing. Hey, Mr. Vera, how are you? Good to see you. Just a bit. Okay. While we are waiting for a few more people to jump on board, remember that an email had gone out. I don't know if another one went out this week or not, but it has the attachment for today's outline. If you want the outline in advance, feel free to do that, or you can just hang on and take some notes and fill in the outline or print out the outline a little bit later. All right, so Gila's working from home. Some sessions good, some are not. Okay. Sarah, that is so true. Technology is crazy. I have been Zooming all day. Well, Zoom for my one job where I teach in the evening, we're doing Zoom, and my other job, we do Google Meet, which I really like, actually. Some of these meetings, I'm thinking we need to stay in the Google Meet or stay in Zoom. I don't want to go back to person, actually, but yeah, working from home is interesting. Remote learning. Both my husband and I are educators as well, so and we're both in the high school. So yeah, this remote piece is really kind of interesting. There's so many. I honestly, I have learned so much in this process. I'm learning new ways to connect to new things that I can apply to other areas of my life, other areas of, with daughters. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to someone yesterday and we were talking about, obviously this pandemic is horrible. People are dying and whatnot. But, God is so good. It would take only God can take a pandemic, okay, and turn it for his good such that people who aren't normally even looking for God are reaching out online. We had hundreds and hundreds of people view our daughter's um, sessions last week. And I know we only have about 67 people in this program. So I'm just so excited when I see people coming from all walks of life. Gila had people tuning in from South America and I'm from Brazil, I'm sorry. And I think that was the exact town. But um, I'm in awe of what the Lord is able to do with what is in front of us. He only wants what's good for us. And I know that, and we have to keep that in mind. So, he's not created this for to be an issue, but he can work it for our good. And sometimes we don't get to see that. And so I am in awe every day of how he's pulling good out of what's going on here. Things that we have changed because of this, and I've realized that some things I don't need to go back to. Some things need to have changed, and without that, without this issue here, I would not have had the opportunity to either think about it or think it was even possible, or that I should be doing it, or shouldn't be doing it. So there are some things that we've been involved in that the Lord has been asking us to back up or back off or change some things, and now it's shut down, and we're able to stop and hear what God is saying, and sometimes He pushes us in those directions where we have to make some changes. And I'm speaking from myself. I'm speaking from my own experience. And Kathy, you are too. God is so good. He has been so good in this situation that even though I know some people that have been hurt and people that have lost their lives, I thank God every day that that I'm still here, and I pray that God continues to bless and keep all of you safe and healthy, and being able to take care of your family. I know people have lost jobs, and new jobs have opened and whatnot. So yeah. Hey Marilyn, good to see you. Got Kathy in there. Marilyn, Renee. Hey Renee. All right, Kathy Diaz. We have a good group here. Give it a few more minutes. We were just talking about working from home. Anyone else working from home? I know we have a couple educators in here, as my husband and I are both educators. I know that's, I don't know how working from home, I'm thinking of like elementary kids has got to be interesting. Although they probably know more about the computer than I do. I'm positive. They probably are a little more advanced than I am. But again, God is just working it out. So before we get started, I see the sun is starting to go down. I'm going to turn my lights on back here. Hang on one second. That way I don't, because you ever start working in your office and look up one time and it's dark, and I'm trying not to let that happen. Hang on one second. All right. Okay. All right. Working from home and going in sometimes, Kathy. You're in education too, I believe. Okay, those of you that are on the front lines of this pandemic, those of you that are essential workers, thank you from the bottom of my heart for going out there every day. My neighbor is a nurse. I have friends that are nurses, and I spoke to a student's mother today who was a nurse, and she said it's crazy out there, things that she's seen and things that she goes through. So, those of you that are in the medical field or at the grocery store or wherever it is that you are coming face to face with people, my thoughts and prayers are with you. That you remain safe, and thank you so much for doing what you do every day. Okay. All right. Wow. So that how you work from home with 3 children under the age of 6, you said it's been fun. That is not the word I was thinking of, but God bless you with peace and everything else. I could not imagine how that is working out. As I said, my daughter's in college and she pops in every now and then to, just talk and whatnot. And I'm in the middle of something, so I would not be very productive, I think, with little kids. But as women, we get it done, right? We figure out how to work it, and we can have them in sessions and dinner cooking and laundry going, and we still will make it happen. So, all right, okay. So we're at about 7:11. Okay. I think that maybe we will get started. So we're in year 2. So I see some year 2 people, some year 3 folks. Today we're talking about the explorer and wanderer, or those archetypes. I won't read through the whole story because the story kind of is the same for the last couple of weeks, because we're going through the archetypes. And the archetypes are that one end of the I don't know, one end of the pole to another, But today's archetype is really kind of interesting. For those of you that listened to this or had were in the session with me last year when I did this, I had to revamp this whole thing. I tried to use what I had last year. It made sense, but but listen, God wouldn't even let me find it. I know I saved that thing in multiple areas, and I could not find the outline at all for this. And I said, okay, Lord, there must be something else. And I just prayed over that, and God just started speaking, and I just started rewriting, and I rewrote a whole lot of things. And after I did that, that's when I found the outline. So I was able to add a little pieces, but there's some things, there's some parallels and with what we're reading in our Bible in the year, and some parallels in what we're dealing with COVID-19. And so I learned a lot. I was very touched by this topic, even though I've touched it already. So, but again, I want to go over it with you, and I hope that God can bless you the way He's blessed me. So let's just start with prayer really quickly. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be here in the presence of these ladies and in your presence, Lord. Above all things, I ask that you touch me in my heart and my mind and my mouth, Lord. I want the ladies to hear you, not me. I want you to touch my heart so that I hear what you want them to hear. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for the word. I thank you for keeping us all safe. I thank you for blessing us to be able to be here online together, Lord, in this forum. And for those that are outside the church, I want to thank you for blessing them to find their way here. I just thank you for all these things, and I ask you to continue to guide us and protect us as we go continue into our week. Keep these families safe, Lord. Bless these women, so that we can continue to give your name the glory and the honor and the praise, because you are so, so worthy. In Christ's precious name we pray. Amen. All right. Amen. Okay. So, explorer, wanderer. The scripture that is setting up this whole thing, or that we're resting this topic on, is Deuteronomy 31:6. And when I look back at my notes last year, I had talked about some Deuteronomy a little bit last year, but considering we've been reading through Deuteronomy for a while, I just had to explode that piece, because we're gonna get in that a little bit. But the archetypes, as I mentioned, are wanderer and explorer. So let's start with talking about what does that mean? Let's define some of these pieces, okay? And again, if you have the outline, you'll kind of see where I'm going with this. But when you think of the word wanderer, what do you am I a wanderer or an explorer? Wanderer, we look at the words like stray, or someone that's sort of roaming around, wandering, if you can use the same word. A straggler. I even saw the word vagabond. Reminds me of my mother-in-law, who's passed, but when as Haitian, she's the vagabond. Just don't have nothing going on, just wandering with no purpose. And that's the last line that I put in there, is to move without purpose, or at least to not know your purpose in that movement. Okay, so that's the wanderer side of this. The explorer side really is your traveler, your seeker. It almost seems more exciting. You're going to explore something. There's not a negative connotation like it would be with a wanderer. It's more of a positive. At least you feel a little bit more positive. Someone that's a searcher, finding a path, a pathfinder. And then at the end of that, I wanted you to add that it is with a purpose, okay? It's to move with a purpose that's known to you, or sometimes it's not known to you, but for the most part, the biggest difference between that wandering and that exploring is wandering, you don't kind of know what's going on, and you don't know if you have that purpose. But the explorer, you kind of move with purpose. So when I think of me personally exploring, I just remember all of the fabulous vacation things that we would go on with my parents. They would go away every summer, usually a couple times a summer, and they would take me and the kids, and we would follow them. And so when I think about explore, adding to some of those words, I think of how comfortable and how it was all set up. And that's what exploring is to me, because it means like I know what's going on. You know my mom, okay? So we knew. I learned that when you are, setting up to explore somewhere new, you knew where you were going. You knew how many meals a day. She had me calculate. It was how much for breakfast, lunch, and dinner times 5 days. I knew what my budget was. I knew what stops we were going to make during the time. if she went without me, she would give me a little sheet of paper saying, we're going to be at this hotel this night, this hotel this night, this is the room, this is the number. Like, she had it down pat. So for me, exploring was also knowing. It was knowledge. I found comfort in recognizing, okay, I know what's coming, I know what's going to happen, and I know what's at the outcome of that. So, that's one of the first things that I think of when I'm thinking about me as an explorer. That comfort piece. But as when you're wandering though, you have this anxiety about you, this uneasy feeling. Sometimes you feel very confused because you're not quite sure what's coming down the road. And that's just human nature. When you don't know what's coming, it can cause something. You have a feeling about that, right? Just there's some kind of lacking in a way of not knowing. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, as an explorer, we feel informed and prepared and focused and almost driven, to get to driven to explore some things. So often the challenges of this world make us tired and confused, especially when we take our eyes off the Father. And we're going to see how in the experiences that we're going to look at today, it is a matter of that focus and where your focus is, which can make all the difference between having that feeling of being a wanderer and or an explorer. When we move from explorer to a wanderer, sometimes we do that without even realizing it. Okay, and as opposed to having that focus mindset, our minds are all over the place and we wander from one thing to another. Sometimes it's one relationship to another. Sometimes it's one church to another. Sometimes it's a friend to another. Okay, so we don't always sometimes even recognize that wandering is there, or we just recognize the feelings that are there and don't understand what's associated with that. So what does the Bible say about that? What does the Father say? He says that we each have a divine purpose, and it's God who works in us through our actions and our will to fulfill his purpose. And we know that scripture. We've heard that. So therefore, really, we're not supposed to just wander around. That's what the Bible's telling me, that we're really supposed to follow that will and explore where he leads us. So the first scripture I have down here is Psalms 139, 13 through 16, which, if I paraphrase it nicely, it says God intentionally sculpted each person and is giving us purpose. I think another version says, that he knew us, he knit us in the womb. There's some intentionality to who we are and what we are supposed to do. So that again tells me that, wandering is not what God is asking us to do. Psalms 57:2 says he will fulfill his purpose for us. Proverbs 16, 1 through 3 says that humans have plans, but God orders our steps. And we know that one, even when we think we know what we're doing, God will set us in the path. And so planning things, especially without God, is definitely something that does not work. Philippians 2 and 13 also says that it is God who works in us to fulfill his good purpose. And so with those things in mind, I know that there is a purpose. And so I know that I need to stay on the side of the exploring side and not necessarily just live in wandering. At the same time, we've all been on both sides, right? We've all been on the wandering and the exploring sides at different points in our lives. And so I don't necessarily want to only say one is negative as a wanderer and one is positive, because there's characteristics on both sides that we're going to see will pop up in our lives, and that can be a benefit to us in many ways. Okay, so in light of our Bible reading for the year, reading the Bible in the year, and in light of the fact that we're talking about wanderers, I had to talk about the Israelites. I just had to. They wandered for 40 years. Okay. And as I was looking this up in some other commentary, the trip that took them 40 years was supposed to take 11 days. 11 days. And I was thinking, what is going on here? As a matter of fact, my daughter, who, reads along with us, I mean, she doesn't read with me every day, but she'll read hers and then we have conversations. And a couple of weeks ago, she said, Mom, they are working on my nerves. She said, what is wrong with the Israelites? Why do we keep doing this over and over? Why do they keep going back? Why? And, and she was cracking me up. At the same time, I said, Sarah, I said, doesn't that sound a lot like us? You know what I mean? Because while we're reading the story, so often I'm looking at the parallel between certain pieces. Okay, parallel between, what they were doing over and over and repenting and going back and God delivering them is the same thing, that we do. It sounds very familiar. So we're not too far off from the children of Israel, but it's something to keep in mind because while they are trying to get to their promised land, God has promises for us. It's in the word. He's promises for us. And so we have to think about when we are in that wilderness and then we're wandering, because that's what happens in the wilderness. There's something that we need to get from that. And ultimately, we're going to end this evening what we can pull from that wilderness journey, keeping the Israelites in mind. So while they were out there wandering in the wilderness, there's a number of things that they were doing wrong. But the first thing that I pulled out was mistakes. They made many, many mistakes, but each time they repented and returned to God over and over. But one of the examples that kind of popped out a lot is that, God says to have no other gods before him. No other gods before him. He's mentioned it many times. And they build idols. They've built idols multiple times. So if I apply that to myself or apply it to us as people, what idols are we building? What idols do we have in our lives that would keep us wandering around this wilderness? For some, it may be their job. A job can very easily become an idol. When you put all the time and all the effort and everything is focused on that job as opposed to where our focus should be, it can very easily become an idol. For some of us, it's our families. For some of it's our children. Anything that we put above God can become an idol. Okay, so that's one of the pieces. Another example I thought was incredible. In fact, I was reading a book that had this kind of an example. But the example was when God sent the biting serpents to the camp through the camps, and the Israelites asked for serpents. Moses is directed to build a pole with the serpent to remind them not to do that again. And they ended up worshiping the pole with the serpent, and so it made me think of, those times that, when we do something or say we choose a certain direction, we end up getting sick and we go to the hospital. We pray, God, heal me. We get out of the hospital and go back to the same behavior that got us there in the first place. Whether that's our health, whether it's exercise, whether it's whatever that is, that particular example kind of, brought me back to that. They were very stubborn. The Israelites were stubborn. They knew what to do. They just did what they wanted to do. And I know that sounds like us sometimes, right? They knew what to do, but they chose something else. They chose their way over God's way. And many times that got them in trouble, as we'll see that it also gets us in trouble. So one of the first examples that I thought of, when they challenged him and rejected his methods, was that, you remember when they wanted meat, okay? God was providing for them daily, manna from heaven. God was providing that, but they wanted meat. And just sent them birds to the point that they got sick of it, right? Do you remember that? That one was cracking me up. He sent so much, birds was just dropping and landing, and so they were happy for a moment, and they're sick of it. And you want to think about that, okay? Think about us. We pray and ask God, Lord, I need a car. I need something to get around. And so he provides that little, in-town car, whatever. But we choose the big old truck, the big old SUV. Now we got it and can't pay to put gas in it, or now it breaks down and we can't fix it. Those times that he provides for us, but want it a different way. We choose something else. And just like the Israelites, it can come back to, literally bite them. But also, they argued about who's in charge, who was God speaking to, that one really, really stuck out with that, because we know the end of that story, the same people that were bringing such disarray and issues in the camp, ultimately God opened up the earth and swallowed them. Okay, so we have to be careful about that. But, they were arguing against what God had said and who he chose. So think about that with us. Sometimes we pray again for a job or whatnot. And I was talking to actually a woman about this, and we prayed for that job. God had one thing in mind and we wanted something else. It was bigger, it was better, it was paying more money or whatever that is. And we got that job, and now we're upset, we're stressed, we don't have time. So many things go wrong. So again, when God gives us the answers, we have to think about what we're picking, okay? Because sometimes we want it a certain way, but clearly we need to follow the word, because there are consequences disobedience. There's consequences to us choosing our own path as opposed to what God has placed in front of us. And we have to be careful with that. Now, although they had many mistakes and they were stubborn in so many different ways, on a positive note, God was with them every step of the way. And it's the same for us. It is the same for us. When we get very stubborn and are set in our ways and we keep making the same mistakes over and over, God does not leave us. Thank the Lord, God does not leave us. He's always with us. And he continues to perform miracle after miracle in our lives, even when we are not always as faithful as we should be. He never leaves us. He gives us everything that we need. We don't want for anything. And when I say miracles, sometimes people think miracles are, huge things that are just, overabundance of miracles. But I want you to think about miracles big and small. The fact that I did finally go to the grocery store after 30 days of being sequestered and didn't get sick, that's a little miracle. It could be a miracle of, I hear of people not working, you know what I mean? My husband works a lot, and many of you know that he had multiple jobs and was working a lot, and he was laid off from one of his jobs. But you know what? That was a miracle in disguise, because nothing else that I said would pull him from those jobs that he thought he needed to do. But God shut it off, closed it. And now that he can't do it, he is now able to see, oh, wow, I need to do this. I need to do that. I can't tell you that miracle, something small as in losing that job because that he didn't need, but he had to see that through another set of eyes. So God is so awesome with his miracles. So I don't want you to miss the miracles that are there, great or small. They're miracles nonetheless, and you want to be able to see them. So as we move past the and the stubbornness, there are times that, within our wilderness journey or while we're out there wandering, sometimes God still has an exploring type of journey for us, even in the wilderness. Okay, so if you are out wandering and you kind of have that uneasy feeling, know that there's some things that God will still send our way that he may want us to be able to pull out of that wilderness journey. Okay, so the scripture that I wanted us to focus on a little bit was Numbers 13 and 17. And this particular scripture is when God sent the 12 spies to the land of Canaan to scout out the promised land that he had already, promised to the Israelites. So, when I first thought of that one, I was thinking about, that just even though we are in the wilderness, there's still a set of directions and plans that we have to follow. Whether we're exploring, we have to follow some things that God is saying, and if we're in the wilderness, because either way, he's still directing our paths, right? So with that whole process of going out and scouts, setting out the spies and whatnot, it came with directions and consequences when his word was not followed. So you just want to be careful not to question some things, because if we look at that story, when the spies came back, they spoke of the positive things, the things that God wanted them to hear, but they had this negativity. They were scaring the people. There are only two out of that whole group. It was Joshua and Caleb were the two that came back with the words that God wanted them to speak. And if we look past that story, we see that all those others, they would never reach the promised land. God told them that they would never reach promised land. As a matter of fact, I think it was a plague and some really other nasty things that happened while they were on that exploration, which was to be a positive thing. It came out milk and honey and grapes and all that. They still chose not to see what God asked them to see. So ladies, be careful, because God has made us promises. Each of us have promises that God has made. And regardless of what we see around us, we're going to see that the promise is still there. And we want to focus on that and not negate those promises. Not if we want to get there and take them the way that God is giving them to us. Okay. So we want to choose wisely, which should be easy because, when we choose wisely and do it the way God asks us to do, we already know the outcome. God has already made those promises to us. He's already said that we can, we will have these promises, and he's already given us, the faithful. We should be faithful anyway. So, we have to check ourselves sometimes when we're looking at his promises. So I mentioned that choose wisely. the outcome, and the reward is known in advance, and choose God's directive, not what we see or feel. It's God's directive. Stephen Covey has written many good books, but he once said that I'm not a product of my circumstances. I'm a product of my decisions. And that's really what it is. Sometimes we find ourselves in these situations where we didn't really want to be there, and we're like, what happened? But it's a decision that we made here, and the next decision that are usually our own and not the wise decisions of the Father that put us in those circumstances, or that keep us wandering in the wilderness so much longer than we need to. So I encourage you to recognize what some of those decisions. I see English. John the Baptist was a wild man in the wilderness, and people were drawn to the encounter, the teaching. So the wilderness definitely is necessary. And we're going to look at that. As a matter of fact, that's a great segue into the next piece. I was mentioning that we don't always make good decisions, but sometimes when we get to the wilderness, it looks like a failure, but it's not necessarily a failure. The definition of a failure is a lack of success, but we have to look at it differently. I had pulled up a couple thoughts on failure. Thomas Edison said, "I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work." I kind of like that one. But even Zig Ziglar said that, remember that failure is an event, not a purpose. So I want you to take from that sometimes when you're going through something in that wilderness, don't look at it as if you're a failure. That is just one part of your story that is happened. Not you are the failure, just that piece of the story, and that you will continue to move forward. Okay. And one of my favorite sayings was by Henry Ford. He said, "Failure is the only opportunity to begin again, only this time more wisely." And that's definitely what we want to do. But when we're talking about this wilderness piece, oftentimes the hardest battles are fought, result in the knowledge and the wisdom and the lessons that we get while in that wilderness. As a matter of fact, if we don't go through some of those lessons and experiences in the wilderness, we won't be ready for the promised land. You know what I mean? I think I spoke a few weeks ago or a few months ago about, God is taking us through some things, because until he molds us, until he burns the dross, until we get to the place that we are prepared for that promise. If we'd have gotten there earlier, we would have, one, may not have seen it, two, didn't know what it looked like, and three, would have lost it because we were not ready inside to do that. So yes, Gila, we leave the wilderness stronger and wiser when we trust God while we're there. So it's important to recognize that the wilderness has a purpose and can have a purpose, but you have to be able to recognize what it is and allow it to use you, as opposed to be angry and bitter and upset about it, which is that's the easiest thing that happens when we're going through something and we see that promise. And Lord, why can't I get there? What's going on? There's something blocking that. That wilderness has a purpose. T.D. Jakes called it the crushing. I don't know if you've seen that message, and that message is old right now. I think he wrote a book on the crushing, but that really spoke to me last year, because he said that the power of your destiny is preceded by the depth of your crushing. Think about that. The power of your destiny is preceded by the depth of your crushing. So when you are being crushed, which happens in the wilderness, there's power in that, and the more you're crushed, the more we turn to God. The more God works in our lives, the more that we can be so much more blessed and so much more productive and so much more of everything when we come out of that, because of that crushing. So the wilderness can act as God's proving ground, because God only wants what's good for us. He doesn't put us there purposely to hurt us, but it certainly can be a place that he tests to form our identity and to give us strength for what's coming ahead. It could be strength for someone else as we bring another daughter along with us. There are a lot of benefits that we can get from that wilderness. So I want you to rethink that concept. If you find yourself in the wilderness, to refocus on the Lord, our Father, and to find our purpose in the wilderness, because there's something there. We do need to recognize and understand and enjoy that promise. So with that said, there's some lessons. There are many lessons that the wilderness that we can learn from the Israelites. And so if you have some paper and pencil, I just want you to jot some of these down. I know that I'm running out of time, but I want to get through them because, as I was reading, I was thinking, man, they're going through a lot of things that are just parallel to what we are dealing with in our lives. And so I wanted to bring those things to you. So these are it's 7 things that we can learn from the Israelites as they were wandering in their wandering years, which is basically what it is. So one of the first things, and this was taken from Debbie McDaniel, and she writes for IBelieve.com, and I just her mind, she wrote it, but as I already had some things jotted down, and she was just able to organize some of my thoughts, and then I was able to add some pieces to it. So I just like where she was going with this, but she started with just recognizing that, or letting us know that the wilderness was very difficult. It was dry and it was hard, but ultimately they had to rely on God for everything. Everything. Their clothes did not go get torn. Their shoes did not wear out. He fed them. He gave them water out of rock. Everything they needed, he provided for them. And we have to think about that and make sure that we go to the source, because he is the one that will provide all that we need. And oftentimes the wilderness is a place that we have to we learn to know that we learn that lesson there. So one of the first things that she said is that the promised land is not always easy. In fact, it's rarely is, but it's worth it. It is so very worth it. The specific scripture she spoke of was in Exodus 13, and it started out with the fact that when the Israelites first left, God could have taken them straight to where they needed to go. But the Bible says that he took them around that area because it could have caused war. And if they would have gone to war at the point where they were, they may have turned around and went back. Okay. So he led them around the desert towards the Red Sea, which was hot and, all kinds of stuff. And you could just hear the grumblings that sort of started. Fear was rising, Lord, why are we going, this way? But the point that she had you take from that is that it was worth fighting for, because he was taking them to a land full of blessings. Okay. And that promised land is something we also have. We have the promised land. So you might feel like it's taken a little too long to get to that blessing. You might feel that you want to give up. And I encourage you to stay strong, stay focused, stay on the path, because there is a blessing at the end of that, at the end of the journey. Okay. The second one, God will make a way when there seems to be no way. Okay? God will make a way when there seems to be no way. And when we think of the Israelites, can you just imagine the closer they got to the Red Sea, the bigger their eyes have got, the bigger the problem saw, the bigger the situation could have been, the more fear. Okay? Same with us. When we see things coming up in our lives, the closer we get to it, Lord, how are we going to work? Lord, and at some point we stop thinking about Lord and we get panicky and we get scared, but we have to stay focused on there, because stay focused on the Lord, because he worked the biggest miracle, one of the biggest miracles, right there, at the Red Sea. Okay, he led them to the biggest obstacle that they had ever encountered, and that was just the beginning of the miracles. Okay, so for us, even if the way that God is taking us through doesn't seem to make sense, or the timing is off, or we think he could have done it a different way, just like the Israelites could have gone straight to where they needed to go, but he had to take them around. Sometimes God is saving us and protecting us from something else that we may not see. So just know that God knows everything. He knows the way. He knows the beginning and the end. And so we have to trust that even though it might seem the long way around that blessing, that he is in charge of that and that he's taking us the right way. The third thing is God leads us by day and night. God led them by day and by night, and he leads us. I loved when they talked about the pillar of light. And for me, when I'm thinking of a pillar, a pillar of fire to get you at night when you're walking, and a pillar, a cloud during the day, I like the word pillar because that means I can see it because he's blessing me and my enemies can see it. A pillar is big enough for everybody to see it. That's sort of how I took that. But the pillar really represents his presence. His presence is always with us. His presence will always lead us if we allow him to do that. God did not leave us to fend for ourselves, just like he didn't leave the Israelites. With the Israelites, he had the pillars, but for us, we have the Holy Spirit that leads us and directs us and guides us. And so we have to heed that Holy Spirit. We have to know the Holy Spirit's words, and we have to follow what the Holy Spirit is saying. He guards us and he walks with us. The fourth thing is that God fights on the behalf of his people. Okay, so we are so blessed. I am so blessed that I can call that I am one of his own, because I know that God fights for his people. Um, when the Israelites faced the attacks of the enemies are surrounding them, he worked in miraculous ways for them. He gave them victory, even when it didn't make sense. Whether it was one battle over the other, God says he gave them victory. And I often think, as I mentioned, of some of these COVID victories that, we're in this horrible crisis, but I'm hearing of people being blessed, or God taking care of you when you didn't have the job, and groceries coming in, and people just reaching out. It warms my heart when someone puts out a message, hey, just checking on you, how are you? You know what I mean? Those in the middle of, maybe one of those days where you just weren't having a good day. Yes, God fights for us in all areas that we don't even realize, right? And that's just so important. It's also important to recognize that it doesn't mean we won't have a battle. You know what I mean? We will go through some battles, but we can know that he's surely right there next to us. He's with us every step, no matter what situation you're going through, daughters. Whatever God is healing you from, whatever you're still situated in, God is right there next to you every step of the way. And he will fight for you. As a matter of fact, Exodus 14:14 said, the Lord will fight for you. You only need to be still. And that spoke to my heart, because sometimes we fight and fight and fight, and we lose our energy, when really we just need to be still. One of my favorite songs is Yolanda Adams, and she says, the battle is the Lord's. The battle is the Lord's. It's not yours. Just be still and let him handle it and take care of it. And if I knew how to turn the music on and song through Facebook Live, I'd have done that, because that song right there has got me through so many hard times, that I realized the battle isn't even mine to be fighting. It's the Lord's battle. Number 5, God provides in miraculous ways. Okay, we know, I mentioned some of those. They needed water, and he struck the rock. They needed food, and he had sent manna and the birds. So just know that, God will work for us in those miraculous ways as well. Sometimes we miss those miracles, of our busyness and our stress. We try to get things going too fast, and we miss it. So we want to focus on what matters the most, is what the article is saying. Number 6, this is important, ladies. Number 6, sin will always take us farther than we want to go. Always take us farther than we want to go. The Bible called the Israelites stiff-necked people. And I would say in our time and age, we would be more hard-headed. I think that's what the word is, hard-headed. Whether it's grumbling and complaining or whatever that is, know that when we start that in the midst of these wilderness, it's like sin is the issue. And it's such a slippery slope. You start one thing, and then you pick up something else, and the slide happens. And that's, we have to be careful with those sins. We have to be, especially when we're out there in the wilderness, because so many things can come at us from so many different places, so many different words. Oh, girl, do this, or oh, girl, do that. No, we have to make sure that we don't let sin get a hold of us, so that it doesn't drag us down. Okay. God, in his mercy, will set us free from those things. So we have to give them to God and let him set us free, so that he can redeem us from those areas. Okay. Number 7, we may feel forgotten and left on our own, but God is always with us. And that's really been the theme, that God is always with us. He will never leave us, and no matter what our situation is. Exodus 33:14, the Lord said, my presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. Blessed rest. Many of us might be in that rest right now, as we've slowed our lives down, but he said his presence is with us, and he will give us that rest. And it's strong, and it's powerful, and it's there even through our most challenging struggles. And we have to keep pressing through to God, pressing through no matter what that is, because God has said that he will continue to be with us. So these battles are difficult. Okay, those are some of the lessons that we are learning, or we should have learned, as the Israelites had gone through. Going through what they went through. And, we don't want to have to go through that in 40 years. We want our blessing. I don't want to have to go around the Red Sea to get to what God promised me. So, keep some of those things, in mind. And finally, they went through all that, and they made it to the promised land. And so will we. We will get to our promised land, or whatever that promised land is for you. So our journey will also end, which brings us to Deuteronomy 31:6, which is the scripture I had at the very top. Deuteronomy 31:6 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail nor abandon you." Praise God. Praise God. He will personally go before us. He will neither fail nor abandon us. We shouldn't have to be panic about it. We don't have to be afraid. We just be still and let God be God. Right? That is the truth. Definitely, that's the truth. So the theme of Moses and Joshua, the theme that I took of that are three main pieces. One, consult the Lord. It never failed to amaze me that no matter what the Israelites did or what happened, Moses said, I need to go talk to God about this. I need to go to God. I need to go to God. So we have to consult the Lord first. And secondly, hear what he said. Okay? Hear what he said. And the third piece is obey what he said. All those things together is what gets us through the wilderness into our promised land. So ladies, what I want us to do is to do this declaration together so that we can focus our eyes and our minds where it needs to be, even when we're in the midst of that wilderness, when we can see where we're going, and that we can praise God when we get to the end of that. I'd like you all together with me. I want us to say this declaration together. I will trust God while in the wilderness. Okay? I will trust God while in the wilderness. I will keep my eyes on the Father and not what I see or feel. And I will thank God in advance for bringing me through the wilderness into my promised land. We're going to do it one more time. I will trust God while in the wilderness. I will keep my eyes on the Father and not what I see or feel. I will thank God in advance for bringing me through the wilderness and into my promised land. Ladies, I pray that God continues to bless you and keep you. I pray that even when you're going through some things, that you always know that God is with you, that you keep your eyes focused, and we as daughters, a community of women, that we lift each other up. We don't know what's going on in everyone's lives that's around us. People have been checking in, and I just love the check-ins. And when you see someone struggling or hear someone struggling or hear people missing someone or losing someone, take it to God in prayer. Pray over that person. In intercessory prayer, reach out to them. Let them know that you're there also. Sometimes we also need just a human voice that knows that, so that you know that someone's there. But we want to start with our Heavenly Father, because He's always going to be there for us, and we want others to come along that journey with us. Ladies, I hope this evening has been a blessing to you. It has been a blessing to me. I tell you, I prayed and prayed for years. Okay, Lord, you tell me to read, and I'm not getting what I need out of it, and it's just a story, and it is so alive this year. I hope this year in the Bible is alive. I hope as you read these stories that you pray first, keep a pen and pencil next to you, and pray, Lord, bless me to understand, bless me to apply. And as you're reading, things will come to you and you can jot them down. And then this is how we use the Word of God as our direction and our that's how you use the Bible. And I hope that this experience for you this year is fabulous. I hope it's a fabulous experience for you. So ladies, let's end in prayer. Before I let you go, I won't keep you long. We have another one coming up. We have about 10 minutes, but let's end in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for these ladies. I thank you for their heart. I thank you for their love of you, love of each other. I thank you for blessing them to want to know more about the Word and apply it to their lives. Lord, I thank you for just for your spirit, Lord, and your power and all that you're doing in our lives. Thank you for releasing some of these ladies from things that they've been dealing with for years. I know this journey in the wilderness sometimes is painful, Lord, but we know that it's necessary. I ask you to walk with them. Bless them to see and feel you as you're walking with them, so that they come out into their promised land on the other side, and that they can pull a woman with them or pull someone with them and know that you're not alone. And I know that you can make it, and I'll be praying for you. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all of these things. I ask you to continue to bless and keep us and guide us and protect us and all these things. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Jessica, I see you. Great lesson, perfect timing. I'm glad it touched your heart. Renee, Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. Evelyn, trusting God in the wilderness. Keep your eyes on the Father, most certainly. Certainly, you might want to take that, print that out, and hang it somewhere, ladies, so that you can use it. So glad you were uplifted by today's message, and hopefully you're going to be in for the marathon and stay in for the next one because they have one coming up at 8 o'clock. And hopefully you've been on the websites for the church and you see that Wednesday night they have other things going on, and 30 has stuff on Thursdays. Ladies, I'm telling you, this online stuff, while I'd rather be there with you guys, our church is providing so many opportunities. So bring someone with you, send out on Facebook of friends that maybe would be interested or just needs to hear the message. These are recorded so you can see all of our older ones. Either way, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Love you all, miss you all. Stay safe. Thank you.